Is the Tyler, Texas housing market going to crash in 2025? Stay tuned as we get into it. As always, thank you for checking out our newest channel here on Living in Tyler, Texas. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and click the bell for notifications. That way you get notified as soon as our videos drop. Additionally, we want to remind you about our Facebook group, Moving to East Texas, and that way you can connect with other people who have made the move. Also, we want to remind you that we are your friend in real estate. We talk to people every day about making a move to Tyler in East Texas. So if you have any questions or are thinking about buying a home, we would love to be that resource for you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, so in today's video, we are going to talk about the market conditions for buying and selling a home in Tyler, Texas in 2025. So there's a lot of indicators nationally that the market is in fact slowing down. This year could in fact be worse than last year in terms of solds, volume, all the above. We had a pretty fast start to the year and was a busier quarter one than normal. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say it's probably 5 to 10% more transactions, higher volume, things like that. And I don't know what the biggest mover in that was, whether it was buyer sentiment related to the election, the economy, things like that. But overall, it felt like that we were doing a little bit better market-wise, and we're going to be trending up for the rest of the year. However, it does seem like the last, probably month or so that things have slowed down a little bit. We definitely have a rising inventory. But if we look at the numbers on the scale of homes that have sold from January 1st through July 1st of 2024 through January 1st through July 1st of 2025, which is today, we've actually sold 10 more homes this year than we sold last year. So last year we sold 726 homes in the same span of time with an average price point of $352,000 and average days on market was 52. If we look at this year, the number of homes sold so far through July 1st is 736,000 with a slightly lower average price at $349,000. So we've seen about a 1% price reduction in the average price with about a little beyond 1% more homes sold in 2025. The average days on market is 54, so we're about a 0.5% more days on market for sold homes. There's a few things I think kind of, leading to that have maybe kind of balanced what was normally a slower year. Rates are actually a little bit lower, almost 0.4% lower. It was 7.12 on July 1st of 2024, but it is 6.67 today. So you can see that the interest rate is a little bit lower. It's in fact been falling since May 19th when it was a little over 7%. So we've seen a steady decline for about 6 weeks in a row now. Another stat that I thought was pretty interesting, 73% of all homes sold this year had a price reduction. In addition, 223 of those homes sold had concessions. So that means they either had a price reduction or concessions. In total, that number is about 85 to 90% that had a price reduction or a concession in it. So almost all homes are being discounted in some capacity. And I think that's only going to continue because one of the biggest indicators of supply and demand is supply. And currently our supply in Tyler is up 2.2 months, which is about 35%. So when we talk about months of inventory, basically that's the number of homes available divided by the number of homes we sell every month on average, and that will give us that number. So currently we're sitting at 5.7 months of inventory. Year over year, that's up 2.2 months of inventory. So because of that, as supply continues to outpace demand, inevitably we're going to continue to see prices drop. So currently, days on market of all active homes is about 72 days. That's about a 38% increase from the sold homes last year. So days on market are creeping up. Inventory is creeping up. So that's just something to be aware of that could, in fact, be transitioning Tyler, Texas to a buyer's market the rest of this year and maybe into next year. So sticking with local data, the most popular and most expensive zip code is 75703. So when we talk about South Tyler, it's 75703 primarily. Currently, Through this year, we've had 276 sales in 75703 with an average price point of $430,000, an average price point at $181 a square foot. Those are all the highest in number of sales, total price, and price per square foot as we break down the other zip codes. If we look at 75701, the second most popular zip code in terms of sales, with 179 at a $287,000 average price point and an average price per square foot of $148. Now, part of that is 75703 is going to have most of your newer construction. There's very little in 75701. There is some, but these are mostly older homes. So your price per square foot is going to be lower. Your total purchase price is going to be lower. And it's actually geographically a smaller area, but it is about 100 sales fewer in 75701 than 75703. The next most active market was 75707 with 94 home sales so far, an average price point exceeding 75701 at $365,000 and an average price per square foot of $173. So that's on the southeast side of town. We do have more newer construction in 07. You've got areas over there by the university where they're still building, and they've built stuff as the university has grown. So those areas are going to be a little bit higher. The lowest priced zip code was 75702, which is in North Tyler with 68 sales so far this year, $160,000 average price point, and $118 a square foot. So you've got older homes and smaller homes on the north side of Tyler. So a lot of those 02 zip codes are going to just be those types of homes. So you're going to see, homes that are 70 to 100 years old, probably less than 1,300 or 1,400 square feet. Some of them are going to be very old and dilapidated in some cases in 02. Not all of them, but they are starting to build more new construction there, and that's going to buoy that price over time. All right, so when we break down price point, everything under $500,000 makes up 85% of the home sales so far this year. But if we go even further, about 75% of them are under $400,000. The biggest transacting price point in Tyler is going to be $200,000 to $300,000, followed by $300,000 to $400,000, and then anything under $200,000 is going to come in third in terms of total sales this year. We don't have a ton, honestly, in that point, just in the under $200,000. So almost anything in that price point, as long as it's decent condition relative to the market, it's going to move. But as you can see, those are kind of be the areas where you're likely going to find the most homes transacting and which homes are going to be the most popular based on price point. All right, so looking at the average age of homes, 158 homes sold that were less than 10 years old, and then 236, the next biggest age group of homes older than 50 years, 236 homes were sold in there. That's going to be a lot of that stuff in the 01 zip code. And parts of 03, but anything built before 1975, going to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable, often a little bit bigger, and a little bit better value. So obviously that stuff's going to be pretty desirable, which, is why it's the biggest range of average sales. A couple key takeaways I found while breaking down the data. In 75703, the average price point dropped almost 5% from $450,000 last year to $429,000 this year. I don't know if that's new construction bringing their prices down or, just other home sellers. Based on how many sold, it's not going to be just new construction, but the average price point moving down almost 5% is pretty significant. However, sales volume increased by 9% actually. So there were more homes being sold and transacted in 03 than last year, but the average price went down 5%. All right, so we're going to look at a few national graphics just to give you a sense of what the overall market is doing across the country. And it's similar to what we're seeing here locally, but I've got cool graphics for the national market to look at. All right, so in our first graphic, we're going to look at months of inventory relative to price reductions. So the Great Recession occurred in 2008, where we saw prices fall in 2009, but basically the threshold appeared to be, we peaked at inventory levels of 5.8 months, and then prices fell shortly after. About 9 months after we got to that peak inventory level. So we're looking currently at a national level at 4.6 months. So we would expect at this rate to get to peak inventory around August of this year, where prices would start to fall in the spring of next year. Now, the trick to that is in Tyler, we're pretty close to that now at 5.6 months of inventory, or 5.7 months of inventory. Just adding another month of inventory is going to increase the likelihood that prices fall faster here in Tyler, Texas. How much, we never know. You know, we saw up to 10% in price reductions across the country during the Great Recession. We could see something to that effect here. I don't know. But basically, once you kind of cross that threshold, based on the data nationally, you know, that greater than 5.8 months of inventory is where you start to see a decline in prices. And we're rapidly approaching that here in Tyler, Texas. All right, for our second graphic, it's going to be talking about new home inventory. So currently we are around 120,000 completed unsold homes here across the country. That's actually the highest since July of 2009, where it was 126,000. So the reason you're going to see so many builder incentives and things like that across the country, and even in some cases here in Tyler, is because our new home inventory levels are rapidly rising. There's fewer buyers out there, so builders are very aggressive and open to finding ways to make deals for home buyers. All right, the third graphic we're going to look at is going to be mortgage applications. Now, to me, this is a thing that we can look at and use as a signal for demand. In 2024, at the same point last year, we were around 135,000 applications. So far this year at the same point, we're looking at, this goes to June 1st, based on the data I have, but as of June 1st, we had around 170,000 mortgage applications filled out. So we are roughly 25 to 30% higher in terms of mortgage applications, signaling buyers are getting off the fence, they're ready to make a decision and start buying homes. So if demand in fact does improve, it could start to curb and pull back some of that inventory, which could hold off some of those price reductions. But if demand does stay low, inevitably we're going to see supply continue to rise and prices start to fall. All right, so looking at home inventory on a national level, we are at the highest point since 2019. However, we're almost 25% lower than inventory levels were in 2019. It is 32% more than last year, so it is significantly higher. However, we had close to 1 million homes for sale in June of 2019, to where right now we've got around 800,000. So you can see we've still got a little bit to go to get to pre-COVID numbers, but we are slowly moving and transitioning back from the COVID market as home inventory continues to rise. As always, thanks for checking out our newest video. If you found this helpful, please give us a like, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Don't forget our Facebook group, Moving to East Texas. It's a great resource if you're thinking about making a move, to connect with other people on Facebook and ask their opinions about their move to East Texas. Additionally, we want to remind you, we are your friend in real estate. Don't call Zillow. We would love to be a resource for you about making a move here to East Texas. We help people relocate all the time and would love to be that resource for you. As always, we'll see you on the next one.